beat of my soul, where doubts and fears take hold. I feel a gentle breeze, your presence sets me free. The touch of love so soft yet strong heals my heart where I belong. God's embrace, so long caress, calming every storm and stress.
Well. Good evening, everyone. So glad that you're here. I'm so glad you're with us today. Listen, I want you to know that God is on his magnificent throne and he's helping us to work things out. You know, this particular uh what I can say on today is the one day prior to the end of our live podcasting until we come back again. But hold on for a minute. I want to make sure if my technician has the necessary control here because I'm having some difficulty for a moment. Hold on. Uh, how are we doing there? Okay. I don't know why that is. Okay. But nonetheless, I'd like to say good evening to everyone once again. This night, we're talking about the call of love. Do you hear love calling you? Really? Because I'm thinking that there is a problem in hearing what love is all about. I do. There is a situation that is calling me to say to you, listen to the call of love. In our world today, there's a lot of frustration, a lot of fighting, and things like that. The government seems to be turning on its head. People seem to be fighting. Divorce rates are just jamming the waves, if you can follow me on this. Now, I've asked Miss Leah Mills, to join me again tonight so that um, y- you and I will have a right conversation. But I'm having difficulty with this host thing. That maybe because I'm getting these three buttons up here. It says pin rather than anything else. And why is that? Je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. So pardon us, please. I suppose this program is supposed to be, it will be, no doubt, a powerful one. And we're having difficulties right now in making sure that things are working correctly. Um, so I am not sure. Um, I'm talking to, no, I see Leah Mills, the host. Leah Mills, would you look on your screen here and make Regina the host? Apparently my arrow slipped or my hand slipped and have accidentally made you the host. Do you see that? Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, um, as you can see, all perfect plans of mice and men will go awry sometimes. So there it is. But once we get this hold on. Leah, do you hear me? Put your mic on, please. Communicate with me, please. I want to make sure we have this up. Thank you so very much.
I do hear you, and
Okay,
I'm trying to see where
you
the
go down to participants at the bottom of your screen to the left. You can highlight that.
okay, let's see here.
Okay. And then run your cursor
Oh,
over
mhm.
Regina's name to the right. You see those three dots there?
Yeah, I've changed Regina to the host.
Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome.
Mhm. All right. Now that we have gotten that done, ladies and gentlemen, in live format, you're seeing an operation of love and faith. You know, we didn't get all out of kilter. We didn't start biting our nails. The fact remains is that we had support. And so when love calls you sometimes, you may be in an awkward position, right? It may be calling you to be patient. It may be calling you to be kind. It may call you to reach out and ask someone for assistance. Don't allow pride to get in the way of what needs to be done in your life. And it just so happened that's the way my Father in heaven works. He give you a live demonstration. Just go with the flow. That's what I tell you. And so tonight, once again, I want to tell everyone that the goal is to talk about the call of love. Why do you do what you do when you do what you do? Right? Why do other people do what they do? And why are there clashing and clashes today? Eh, In other words, the whole question, why can't we all just get along? Why do we have these nervous breakdowns? Why do we want to bash people aside the head? Or why do we find ourselves fearful that someone may hurt us? Why are people so afraid to stand in front of people and just be themselves? Why do we get all heebie-jeebied up or nervous and frustrated? These are questions that we need to really consider ourselves. And then not only that, what drives you? What motivates you? Is it fear or is it love? Now I'm going to ask, uh, I like to call her Dr. Mills. I like to call her doctor. She's not a doctor though. She's not a doctor, but she is, for me, on the level of any PhD that I know. And so I'm going to invite her on right now. And I say thank you for joining me, Miss Mills. How are you,
I'm
Doc?
doing well. I'm doing well, Dr. V. I'm doing well.
Yes. All right. Very good. Very good. I'm so glad that you're joining us tonight. Uh, Even though with this little levity that I have here, it's a very serious topic. But then love also knows how to banter. Love knows how to embrace. Love knows how to be relaxed. Love knows how to get tough when the goings get tough as well. And so, um, Leah, Miss Mills, Professor Mills, what do I call you? Okay. I see the
Leah will
LMSW.
suffice. Leah will
Huh?
suffice.
Okay. All right. Um, I would like for you to help us to understand about, about love. What is it? How does it call to us? But then I don't want this academia presentation. I want what if it comes out academia, that's fine. But I like it coming from you. I like to ask you, what drives you? What motivates you? Why do you do what you do? And then I may interject, but the floor is yours right now.
So when you say what drives me, in
Yes.
regards to what I do, are you referencing from a professional standpoint, or are you referencing a familial, right, or a friendship? I think love shows up in different ways, in different places, and contingent upon different types of relationships. So which one are you wanting me to touch in on?
I just love the way you come in with that. And that's great. I'm so glad you did that because we talked about love in those various aspects, familial and social and the whole nine yards.
Mhm.
Oh, but let's start with you,
Mhm.
family, social. What drives you?
I would say with family, it started with conditioning, right? So
Conditioning? You say
as
conditioning?
conditioning. Mhm.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as, a child, you actually learn how to love from the environment. right? And the environment shapes you. It teaches you how you are to show up, um, parent to child, right? The attachment process that happens from the parent to the child, right, demonstrates love, right? So if a parent shows up for your needs, as my parents showed up for me, I learned, right, how love was supposed to look, or so I thought, through a child's lens, right?
Oh, you said so you thought. What do you mean so you thought?
Because for me, love has taken shape.
Okay.
It isn't static for me.
Okay.
And it isn't just contingent upon how my parents saw it.
Mhm.
Um, and what they taught to me, right? As a young
Okay.
child, it was
Mhm.
God is love. Okay, well, what does that really mean? It is such like this big, broad um thought, if you will. It's a foundational belief for me, but practically, what does that look like? And
Mhm.
so how my parents demonstrated love to me oftentimes would also look like it was a shaping or conditioning for a reciprocation of the love that they desired, not the natural way that love may have evolved if I was just left to grow on my own, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So for me, it started out as a conditioning. Over time, um, interfacing and having bumps, within relationship, shifted how love may have shown up, because love in my mind's eye is also actionable. It is
Mhm.
not just solely a feeling. It is also based upon a principle, again, with having, belief systems embedded within me from a religious or Christian standpoint.
Well,
Uh,
let me stop there for a minute because you mentioned that it was more than a feeling. Um, and you mentioned that, and we're talking about developing that love, that growth of that love. So
mhm,
when we're talking about feeling, the reason why I wanted to stop you there because when we started this program, Witness is a True Love, the theme was from passion to compassion.
mhm,
So
mhm.
then we're dealing with the feeling part. What part did you start off with? And I'm assuming that was with the feeling. So start with that development of your feelings, if you will.
I don't think that I necessarily started off, but then again, right, you don't really know how you
Hmm.
start because you're
Oh,
so young. Not many of us have memory of when we were, right, an infant. Um, but the attachment process, I believe, is based upon how, right, you feel in your neurological system, your body and its nervous system, whether you feel comfortable, right, in the care of an individual or not. So I would say yes, maybe it was about feeling, but not
mhm.
necessarily emotion, but physiological,
Okay. Okay. Yes.
right? In
Yes.
the body, that type
Okay.
of thing. And that's vastly different than, ooh, I have all of these butterflies, right? Because butterflies
Ah.
sometimes can actually mean that I don't feel safe, right? So you have to
Mm,
define what that looks like. And so, again, in the body, I think the body knows when it feels safe and when it doesn't. So I
mhm,
would say
mhm.
for me, I felt safe neurologically, um, for the most part as a child. And then over time, I think that as you begin to observe the world and you start to build your own concepts of what it is that you're seeing interfamilially or within your own family system, that it may take shape and it may shift um, from its purest standpoint, right, of just the body to now the mind is beginning to affect how the body wants to interface with this individual that you started out in love with, right?
Okay. You said the mind.
The mind.
Now, this may sound really ignorant, but don't let it shock you. I've been called ignorant before. But what if I don't have that mind? What if I'm just allowing my feelings, like I get hungry, right? I get hungry. That's a biological thing, physiological thing. I get hungry, and when I'm hungry, I'm uncomfortable. So as a baby, I cry, and so when you feed me, then I'm gonna think what? Then my mind kicks in. I like that feeling. I like that comfort. I don't know what to call it because I'm infant. And then you are the one, or I should say, the parent is the one who's satisfied me. Then I'm thinking of Pavlov's law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is conditioning.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
operant conditioning. Right.
Okay. Because you started off that way. You said the love you start with is like a conditional thing, right? So it's so then love initially calls us in our ignorance based on that physiological thing, the whisper of love. I never thought about it that way. I'm gonna put that in a book. But anyhow,
That exchange, it was still right. It's actionable. It's an
right,
exchange, right?
right,
Again, my body feels safe.
right, right.
Like there are no bells going off, right? Or alarms going off that's saying, whoa, I don't feel so safe.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they are going off because I'm having this need met in this capacity, which need overrides another?
Mm. Okay.
In which
All right.
need say, hey, okay, in the hierarchy of needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good in this particular space, but I might not be so good over here, and I may forego that to keep receiving this.
Okay. Yes, yes. Okay. All right. All right. Now I know I interjected, but I just wanted us to just stay there for a moment or two. I just wanted to stay there for the rest of the time period. But I just thought it was very important for it's very important for us to understand the beginnings, your beginning, and you had a upbringing. I met your father on a couple occasions. Suave, very intelligent man. Okay. He had a sense of confidence about him, and I like that. I admire that. He somewhat reminded me of my father, but my father was older than your father.
Maybe not. Maybe
Maybe
not.
not. Okay. But anyhow, I saw that and I admired that. So you in that type of environment and it's shaping you, it's molding you, right? So as you are interchanging or interacting in that environment, how did it, if you can recollect, if you recall, share with us how that began to mold you into the person that you are today.
So I would say my observation of my parents were very selfless people
Mhm.
in the sense of community service, right? So embedded within our religious system, one of the arms of the system that was held in, high regard was helping others. And so as a young child, my parents would often go to the store and purchase things for those that did not have, were less fortunate. I often say I didn't necessarily know that we were not wealthy or well-to-do,
Mhm.
because we definitely weren't. But the Lord, blessed them to have this heart towards humanity, where
Okay.
they could stretch themselves to
Mhm.
help others that were in need. And so I would see that often, and they would always take, like, our family, we did everything together. My brother and I would call, this is the Brady Bunch. Like, can I just go over here and have some time alone? No, we were moving as a unit all the time. Uh,
Mm.
even in the most uncomfortable situations. Doesn't necessarily mean, right, moving as a unit is always a positive thing. But that's how my family system was shaped. And so as they would go out, and I've seen them, go to hotels and take groceries, or go over to someone's home because they've purchased furniture for them, or, clothing, or, hey, Leah, go into your closet, find these clothes that you're not really wearing, bag it up, and we're going to take this over here
Well,
because
wait,
someone,
wait, 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 wait.
what?
Leah, Leah,
Yes, yes,
go into your closet
yeah.
and find the clothes. Now you have to tell me how you felt about that now.
Well, see, for me, and people
Be
oftentimes,
honest, girl. Be honest.
I
See?
am, people may think that I'm embellishing, but coming up as a child, I never wore the same thing twice.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it was, okay, and I'm not touching it anymore anyway.
Okay.
So it's okay, right? I didn't
Okay.
see it from this space of, right, a heart sort of a work, right? I
Okay.
just saw it as my parents are telling me, go do this. But while
Mm-hmm.
I'm being immersed in this, is shaping me, and I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
they were engaging in social work absent a degree.
Mm-hmm.
This is case management work absent a social work degree, right?
Okay. Okay.
So it was shaping me. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say those earlier years of engaging in that sort of work. And then my mother, she was over vacation Bible school a lot. And so, we had the kids in the community to come, and I'm right there, right? Leah, go over here, do this. Right. So I'm always put to task to help someone else. And
So how
so
did you feel about that?
there were some times that I hated it because I was a child and I just wanted to be a
Mm-hmm.
child. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then there were moments where I'm like, oh, well, this is pretty cool because we're having fun doing this, right? So that's that emotional connection to the actions. Um,
So
and so
may I interject here? I just
mhm,
want to tell everyone who may be listening right now the shaping that's taking on here. Because what I'm hearing Leah's telling me is that there were some times she makes this observation that her family were making sacrifices to help someone else. That means doing without so someone else can have, not totally depriving themselves,
mhm,
but doing, forsaking, I should say, postponing certain gratifications so
mhm,
that others may have some gratification. And
yeah,
that's forming that, even though Leah is saying she didn't really, she go in her closet, she's not going to wear anything anyhow, so she's going, but she's being shaped. And there are some times when she did not want to always be doing certain things. There were some things she wanted to do, but she loved her parents. And so she was sacrificed, that is, postponing immediate gratification for the sake of others. This is the call of love that is shaping her. And we should remember that as we move on. Thank you, Leah, for sharing that. Go right ahead. I just love it.
it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, definitely I was immersed in a space of selflessness and service. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so it began to evolve like this humanitarian, right, within me. It began to evolve, a measure of empathy, right? Whether you know it, you're comparing yourself, right, to certain situations. And it doesn't mean that you're shaming or you're looking down at anyone, but you look at what your reality is and you look at what someone else's reality is, and it, somehow, don't know it, but somehow it pricks your heart, right?
Mm,
Because you
mm,
desire, or at least for me, I desired that no one would have to go through a painful experience in their life. And again, I'm young, not knowing that pain is a part of life. But the desire to relieve someone of some of the anguish and some of the pain that they're experiencing was something that I began to develop. Now, in my home, and I don't want anybody to think that I came from a perfect family because I didn't,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
And so there were areas, as a clinician, I often tell the people that I work with, whether in a group or individual setting or whatever, everybody comes from family dysfunction. I don't care what nobody says. There is no Leave It to Beaver. There is no, where everything is just beautiful. It's not.
Oh no!
No.
What a reality check. I'm
Everybody
so
comes
glad
from
you
dysfunction.
said that though. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
And so, talking about love and how does it develop? Like, really,
Mhm.
how can love develop out of dysfunction? You will see
Mm.
people say, this rose growing up through the concrete, right? How does a rose come up out of this? Or biblically, can anything good come up out of Nazareth, right?
Okay. Okay.
It's the same thing with your family system, right? There's going to be good in it, and then there's going to be some stuff in it that may not necessarily work very well with your spirit. And there were
Mhm.
things that did not work well with my spirit.
Mm.
So that's why I said you start out with conditioning, and then over time, thinking overrides feeling, right? And someone else is molding. So now you begin to observe and you start to develop your own thoughts about things.
Let's now
Yeah.
you said observe. Let's
Hmm.
let's let's pause right there for a moment and deal with this thing called observation.
Hmm.
Describe what observation or observing something entails.
It is how you are witnessing what is in front of you, right? And it can happen through, right, your vision. It can come through what you're hearing. It can come through what you're smelling can impact, right? So your senses are engaged in the observation process.
Mhm.
So any environment that you're in, you're taking something in, right? Life doesn't just happen around you and you don't over time begin to pick up on some of the various, right, nuances of what is going on around you. And then your body over time will let you know if what is going on around you is, conducive to what is healthy for you. It
Uh-oh.
becomes individualistic, right?
Mm.
Not collective, right? Thought processes. But
Mhm.
over time, as you grow, your body is like, I don't like this. So now it's about me in that space and not the space, right, shaping me. So over time, there were some things that were very difficult and didn't necessarily jive with my spirit. And as much love was as much as I didn't necessarily want to be around certain, right, aspects of the environment.
Oh, okay. Now, see, I love talking to you.
Hmm.
You're a deep thinker and you're real for real because it's coming to this place. I have these feelings. Okay, cool. But now I'm making these observations because some of these feelings I don't like. But
Hmm.
then some of these feelings that I don't like, I have to deal with. But do I really have to deal with that? So we begin to now zero in on who I am as a person, right? In relationship to the environment in which I'm in.
And
And
sometimes
whether or not,
you don't have
uh,
that control.
say what now?
Sometimes you don't have that control, whether you like it or not.
Right, right. Whether you like it or not. But at the same time, we are observing. So in that observation, we're feeding, if I heard you correctly, ourselves.
Hmm.
We're trying to understand what's going on and how whatever I am experiencing is actually benefiting me.
Hmm.
So the question I have in relationship to that before we move on is did you ever feel as you were going through that, and perhaps maybe going through it today, that that was selfish? And I use that word loosely because I have a bias on that. Because personally, let me hush my mouth. I'm gonna let you speak on it. Then I will speak on it. No, I'm gonna speak on it.
Speak.
Okay. Then you correct me. Okay. When a person is going through that,
Mhm.
that person is not being selfish. That person is that person. That person is owning up to himself. In my mind, I'm thinking selfishness when you take God off the throne, put yourself there on
Mhm.
his throne, and the
Oh.
whole universe evolves around you. But you have your own seat, you have your own space, and that
Mhm.
space belongs to you. And a lot of times people don't acknowledge that. And they
Okay.
put this classification on you like you're being selfish, like to pull you down. Okay. So my question to you is, as you're going through this process, did you feel now, of course, as I said, did you feel like you were wrong for thinking this way? Or did you feel like you were right in thinking that way? In sorting things out in your observation? Because there are people today who are going through things like that.
Right, right. So what I would say is during those moments, and right by this time, I'm an adolescent, right? I'm a teenager.
Right.
And as a teenager, we know that teens are overly emotional, right? And don't have a whole lot of life experience to draw from, right? And say, wow, this is happening because of that, right? You're feeling this because of all I knew is what I was feeling, right?
Mhm.
In my body and what I was seeing on occasion that did not make me feel very good. And so when you're looking at this sense of selfishness, selfishness tends to come in because someone solely is looking for their own pleasure. In that moment, I was simply looking for relief, right?
Okay.
So I think it began like it starts from the intention. Was I seeking pleasure? I wasn't,
Mhm.
right? I was seeking relief from an environment that didn't necessarily mesh with my right spirit, which is individual, because God gives you what he gives you. He doesn't give you what he gives you, and it has to be approved in other individuals first, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
So again, love didn't go anywhere, right? It was the environment at times had gotten so heavy that it had the potential, right, to overshadow what should be known as love. So, um, yeah, I didn't consider it as selfish. I considered it as self-preservation,
Mhm.
um, and the need for relief. And I think all teenagers kind of go through it. Like I always say, they go through the terrible twos again, right? Put me down, let me go, wiggling out of your arms, sort of thing. And they want to go out and live on their own.
Mhm.
And again,
Mhm.
even in that, whether it was relief that I felt I was, seeking, when you search that out of desperation, that can be harmful. And so I knocked
Yes.
my head up against the wall um in search of relief, because in the family system, when you're conditioned to be a certain way, and most Black families, we're not conditioned to be critical thinkers and to be independent in thought and action. So you feel like you're kind of imprisoned, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
imprisonment doesn't feel like love.
hmm That's
So
right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So then there you are, making love is calling you, love is growing you. You're looking at your environment, you're looking at yourself as well, the spirit that you're in, and then these walls are up. How did you escape the prison? Did someone just come by and open the gates?
no, so and again I say like people don't know. I often tell people like it's easy to be very critical and very hard on someone else when you haven't lived their life and you don't know what their life is all about, right? And
Right,
so
right.
not very many times, at least coming up in my era, did parents sit down and have like these long conversations about get to know who I am and the life that I had as a child. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm,
We're
mm-mm.
just now starting to talk about, hey, go and get you some therapy because it's intergenerational trauma that's being passed down from generation to generation. Like, stop it somewhere,
Right,
right?
right, right,
So
right.
I didn't um necessarily know and still don't necessarily know the background of my parents other than what they just desired to share.
Mhm.
But what I did know is my mother wanted us close, right? Now, someone could take that as, oh, she just loved you so much that she didn't want you to go anywhere, right? Then in psychology, you have some people who talk about the helicopter mom, who, right,
Mhm.
just doesn't want their child to go anywhere for their own selfish need or gratification, right? And so for me, I didn't know what it was, but I do know that I was rescued from my father, who said, let that girl go away to college.
Mm.
So
Okay.
for me, that was the door opening, right? And it was
Okay.
a parent, right, that said, let her go. So for me, that was love because
Okay.
remember, I needed relief
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
from something that didn't feel good to my body. So now I'm like, oh, wow. Yep, he loves me, right?
Right, right. That's so
So
beautiful.
that's how,
That,
yeah.
that's a beautiful because we say love is a principle, right? And we can see that principle working out in the process of your growth and your development. You're college now. I mean, when we talk about college, talking about developing the mind.
Mhm,
Get into the books. You're now out in your environment has expanded,
mhm,
experiences, things of that nature. Now, while in college, you're in
mhm.
school. We're getting to the place where I wanted to be at the beginning. So I may have to ask you to come back again some other time. But I want you to tell us while in college and you're learning.
Mhm.
I mean, before college, did you have in mind that you will be doing the things that you're doing now? Or did you have something else in mind?
So interestingly, yes, but I didn't know necessarily, right? Like again, there's things being planted, and I'm
Hmm.
being put into position, and I believe God is shaping me for who I am
Hmm.
today as a youth. So and you would know it because you were, my teacher back then. Um, But it seemed as though whenever any of my peers, my classmates would have like the worst day ever, traumatic situations going on at home, they would always seek me out to talk about it. Now,
Okay.
at that
Okay.
time, I have much of nothing to give, right? I have no experiential knowledge on anything. I'm being taken care of by my parents. Like, what do I have to offer if someone is coming to me and saying, hey, I want to kill myself?
Wow.
I
Yeah.
remember one of my classmates went into the bathroom, had tied a belt around one of the stalls, and someone came out and actually was a boy, right? A male. And I went into the boys' bathroom. It was like,
Okay.
no, we're not doing this, right? And so was able to thwart an actual suicide attempt by
Mm-hmm.
going into a space that I wasn't allowed into,
Uh-oh.
right?
Uh-oh.
Girl, I'm
Yeah.
not in a boys' bathroom. That's penalty unto death, right? But the reality is I didn't know what God was designing me for. And so now when I look at my life today, I've had to go into spaces that most people turn, they turn themselves against to help those that are most in need.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
But I didn't know that when I was in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, right?
mhm. Yeah, love called you, right? Look, here it is. Someone comes out the men's restroom, stress, needing help, and you go into an area forbidden.
Yeah,
Don't go there. And but love says, "Woo," and you go. And some life was spared because you showed that you cared. That's powerful. When love calls you, it is not relegated to a tradition. Sometimes you have to break tradition or human expectation to do the right thing. And love is the barometer. That is the saving of a life
right.
that determines that. Wow. Leah, I didn't know you had done that.
I would have gotten in trouble if
That is so good. That
Yeah.
is so
And that's just
good.
one instance, right? Like it
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
multiple where I would be that one or the one that, I always hated bullying and probably because I was bullied as a young child.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and so again, we talk about what doesn't feel good physiologically, right? When trauma
mhm,
resides in the body, it's easy to recognize and pick up on, and right, it causes distress. And
mhm.
so there would be, times where other individuals were being bullied, and one of which, and we're best friends, right? The godmother of my children and I of hers, and right, all
Right.
from a critical situation where someone was hurting and I couldn't stand by idly. And it was funny that we're best friends today, but when we first met, we would have been considered enemies.
Mm.
But
Okay.
based upon a social construct of our sister school being at odds with our school, and
Mm,
then the schools had to merge, right? So
mm,
socially, we would have been at odds. But as you're saying, when love is embedded within you, however it comes, and you allow for those seeds to germinate, you don't push back on it. The reality is what may have presented as an opponent can actually become the dearest person to you. So,
mm,
yeah.
mm. So you just said allow. Now that's a like a pet peeve of mine, the word allow or to let. When
Hmm.
God created, he said, let there be, let there be. See, God has put in us the
Hmm.
seed of love,
Hmm.
you know, and we can hear, if we listen carefully, there's a call of God on our lives that says, let there be. And so when we allow that call to take place, we find ourselves being fulfilled. We have this sense of fulfillment and the sense of purpose. And it's interesting, Leah, that you said the opposition becomes it's not competition, it's now compli- complementary.
Yeah,
You're helping one another. And who would have thought it?
not I.
Yeah, who would have thought it? Praise the Lord. Now, you are now a professional. The Lord had led you in different ways through your family initially, and then you now have a family of your own. And not only do you have a family of your own, you are out there still helping other people. This requires what? Sacrifice?
Great sacrifice. Selflessness. It requires empathy. It requires understanding from my family. And not just understanding, but not being a barrier, right? Um, it requires courage.
Why you say courage?
Because remember I said God shaped me very young to go into spaces that others
Hmm.
go into. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm still doing the same.
Okay. Okay.
So, even in my educational attainment where we had to do practicums, um, the place that I received my degree from was very affluent. Um, but I never lost my roots, right? From when I said I was relieved by being able to go away to college, I did not receive my degree from that particular institution, which was Oakwood College at that time, now Oakwood University.
Mhm.
Uh, but there was the oh, what's the word I'm looking for? A phrase I'm looking for. Basically, the mantra or the school. What is it, Mr. Waller? That's your lane, education. What is it?
Okay, my lane. But I drive down the 4-lane highway, so I don't.
What you say? You just bob and weave? You sound like me. You sound like me. But basically, like the foundational principle of Oakwood College, now university, is enter to learn and depart to serve.
That's
Right.
it. Yes. Hmm.
And so that always stuck with me that that's what I was supposed to be doing, right? Because my mind's still malleable, right? And so even when I went back to school, because I was a non-traditional student, and I, went back after the death of my father for love, out of love, right? Um, and so
Oh, don't skip over that. And you went back. You're a non-traditional student, and you went back to school because of the love of your father. Explain that, please. Explain that.
So, my father desired for me to, have my degree. He often wanted, his thing was, is Leah, you need to be a doctor, right?
Hmm.
And so while he was going through his, last days on the earth, I was always present. Like I was not leaving my dad's side. And so the medical professionals would always say, "Are you a doctor?" And I'm like, "No, I am a daughter that doesn't play about her daddy, and listens very intently about what it is that you all are saying and what you all need to be doing procedurally." And so, um, when he died, it was like something in me clicked, and I
Mm.
would say it was probably regret, right? Initially, that I didn't do for him what he truly desired from my life. He was unable to see that thing. Albeit he was proud of me, and it wasn't like I wasn't doing things, right? Proud of me, proud of his grandchildren, all of that. But when he died, something said, "Leah, your dad wanted you to have a degree, go back to school." And so God just kind of took me through these paths, right, of educational attainment, fast tracked me through and brought me to where I am. But it was done out of this deep love that I had for my father to honor his life and his legacy. Many didn't know it. My father never graduated from high school. He was a brilliant man.
Mm-hmm.
But systemically, back in those days, Black people were, deterred from assistance within the educational sector. We still dealing with
Mm-hmm.
it.
Still dealing with that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it. Mhm.
And so it was again, it was like this love that I had for him, that I had to do what he desired for my life. And so that's why I went back to school. But going into spaces that no one wanted to go into, when I did my field practicum in my master's program, um, I had in my mind's eye, like, I'm going to work at the University of Michigan, and I'm going to be, in my white coat and my office and my this and my that, right? And God said, no, no, you're not. You're going to go over here to where nobody else wants to go. And the, field liaison and advisors, no, you don't want to do that. And I'm like, no, yes, I do. This is exactly what I want to do. And so my first step into working in social work was working with people addicted to substances. So I worked in a residential and detox facility,
Mm.
and they are the most marginalized of people, right? No one wants to touch them. And then I went from that to working, out of, residential space, but ambulatory space, meaning outpatient substance abuse place, but also dealing with individuals with HIV. Again, those individuals that people do not want to touch for fear of whatever. From there, I'm working in the carceral system, right? And I'm feeling like I'm as incarcerated as the individuals, right, that are being jailed there that were babies. Um, but I'm walking, right? And I'm working in these spaces behind cinder block walls and big metal doors slamming behind me, and I'm locked up as much as they are, right? And I'm with
Right.
very volatile individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I was just talking with a friend of mine who is, dealing with some things, also working in a space like that, and said, I'm not dealing with this because it's too violent, it's too volatile, it's dangerous. And it made me reflect on, again, we're talking about love and God's love for me and his covering for me. Never did I have an incident from any,
Mm-hmm.
and these were all males. Never. And I'm talking murderers, the whole nine.
Right, right, right.
Never did I ever have an incident. And people would say, how is it that, right? They call it pods where the young men would live. How
Mm-hmm.
is it that, your pod is so smooth? Like and it was God, right? And it
It
was an
was gone.
appointment for me to be there and to show love. And so now those young men that I work with, they call me Ma. And this
Yeah.
is right 13 plus years later, and they still call me. I have one that calls me every day.
Ah,
Right. So
amen.
yeah, love transfers, and
Mhm.
it's felt, right? But it's also actionable. Yeah.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you do what you do, how you do what you do, because God is motivating you. He is putting you that love. Even going on further in your education, it was the love for your father, the respect for him that caused you to move forward in doing that. Wow. It reminds me what happened to me. My mom she didn't finish high school either. And she says to me, she wanted me to finish. I hated school. I hated school. Oh, the only thing I the only thing I loved about school was lunch. They really had lunch in those days. And recess and PE.
Are you
Those were
serious?
the only three subjects I loved in school. Everything else, English, math, social studies, science, no, 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 no. Art, no, no
Dr.
art, no
V,
anything. Yes.
Dr. V, lunch isn't the subject, but okay.
But it was on the plate. It was my subject. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But particularly, being brought up in an impoverished home and you had only about one meal a day, if you had that small bit. Going to school, eating that lunch was a great deal.
Yeah.
So no, God, that love pulls us and draws us and so forth.
Yeah.
You know, you are out there as a clinician and you're noticing a lot of people starving for love, a lot of people in need of love, and perhaps don't even realize that they're in need of that love. And maybe there may be one or two of those people who may watch this program one day. What would you say to them? Because we need to hear the call of love. We need to hear that and embrace that. What would you say to those person? Take your time. I won't interject anything until I feel like it.
So let me kind of rephrase what it is that you're asking. Are you
Okay.
asking me to share to whomever in your listening audience why
Mhm.
they deserve love?
Not necessarily why they deserve love, but how can they identify it? Because there's so many people out there faking the game, and they don't realize themselves that they are, and some individuals who are victims, not
Mm,
receiving love,
mhm,
don't realize a lot of times that they're giving love, but people are saying to them like, um, "You just being too kind.
mm,
You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that."
mm.
Did I muddy up the water some?
Well, no, not really. I think what I'm hearing you say is, how do you recognize when you're receiving genuine love versus manipulation or someone trying to deter? Okay,
You
okay.
get it, sister.
I would say that, if you were listening to me in the very beginning, our bodies are so powerful, right? It's almost like being able to, pick up Wi-Fi picks up signals, right? Through waves that are emitted or, put out into the atmosphere. Our bodies are the same way. We pick up on energy that is given out from other human beings, right?
Mhm.
And we oftentimes ignore what it is that our bodies are telling us. Now, I'm not trying to victimize, right, someone that may be going through a difficult time of being able to identify, because sometimes if you have not received love, right, genuine love where someone isn't trying to get something out of you for their own gratification, but loving you just because you're worthy to be loved, then sometimes it's hard to like identify, right? Or that distinction, if you will. So sometimes you're going to wind up in situations because the longing to be loved is so deep within you
Mhm.
that you might wind up in the arms of the wrong individual or in the care of, if you will, the wrong person. Over time, the treatment or the maltreatment, right? The negative treatment that is received over time, you're going to begin to have a dislike for it because there's something that God puts in us that tells us that we're worthy of love in its genuine sense. We don't necessarily know it outside of the fact our bodies is communicating to us like, no, this ain't it. This doesn't feel good emotionally, psychologically, or physically. It does not feel good. Don't ignore what your body is saying to you. Don't ignore it. Many of us do, and we wind up in harmful situations. Many of us do and can't get out of situations. And then that's when we have to figure out how do we manage life within, right? This negative space, right? But if you have the ability to make the choice for you first, right? And again, remember, selfishness is about pleasure, not about relief. It's about pleasure, seeking after pleasure. If you're in pain, you just want the pain to stop. That's not selfishness. That's self-love. So sometimes we got to learn to love ourselves first so that then we allow others to love us in the manner in which we know we need, that works for us. And that may take time for some. So I would just simply say, listen to what your body is saying and it's communicating to you. Don't ignore it, right? Even if you've been taught to ignore it, bounce it off of somebody else. Ask the question. Sometimes we need to have other input because left to our own mind, right, and the dysfunction of our upbringings, we may potentially continue to succumb and live a life of misery. And I don't believe that's what God desired for any of us. So bounce it off of some other folk, right? If you're allowed to, because there are some relationships that people are not allowed to have contact. They're put into isolation, right? They move you from those that they know love you, that would have influence so that they can be the sole influencer of your life. But if you have access on a job, have a friend, have a family member, a pastor, because sometimes religious experiences will make us feel like we have to remain stuck in
Mm,
healthy situations. And that's a whole nother, right, thing. Religious abuse does occur. Uh,
hmm.
but
So
the
that's
real
two times you come back now.
two times.
You get to come back two times now. Okay, okay. Go ahead. That's number two. Religious abuse. Okay, go ahead.
So the reality is try to have someone that you feel safe with, that you can bounce off what you may be dealing with, get some
Mhm.
additional input, and then just kind of, move along those lines. And hopefully you're able to get to a point of seeing that you are worthy of love that doesn't hurt, but one that, holds you, keeps you safe, and helps you to move along in a positive direction.
Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that, Leah. That's profound and greatly needed. I would just like to undergird those statements by simply saying this too. God made you. He said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And God made you for love, to love and to be loved. And as Leah mentioned earlier, you know in you that's what you want. And you know in you that's what you deserve. So don't settle for less than that. Listen to the call of God. Communicate with the Lord. The Lord will send people your way. And if you can't find anybody, hey, Jesus says, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the age. If you just talk. And if you mad at God because you think that he has not done right by you, tell him about it. Tell him about it. You'll find that he can handle it. He can handle it because he loves you. The call of love resonates within you. One other thing is like that tuning fork. You have the tuning fork. You hit one, bang, the other one begins to vibrate. So when God is working, you will find that you will be oscillating with him, in sync with him, because God is love. And whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. Leah, I would like our viewer once again to know how to contact you. Okay. Now I got you. I'm gonna put you on speed dial. So I may say your name and it may come up. But I think now Leah,
Mhm.
you know what my brother said to me? She said, Victor, you just are not serious enough in life. I said, brother, I'm serious. He told me one day, he said, grow up. Now I was a teenager then. And that hurt me so bad. I said, okay, maybe I am too childish here. But now that I'm 71 years old and I'm acting the same way, Maybe I am grown up. It's just I'm just a happy grown up. That's it. I don't want to grow up cantankerous and mean and nasty. I want to
Yeah,
be a firm, happy person. And with that is the case, we can all become what we choose to become.
exactly.
We do not allow the external things to dictate to us what we ought to become, except that external person has that internal connection to us, and that is God and only God. Let him be your guide.
But if
Leah,
I
go ahead.
add,
Go ahead.
we don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
simplify the process of unlearning something because it's
Hmm.
not, right?
Right.
It is just the desire that motivates. So it's finding your desire. When you want something so bad, when you're hungry for something, then you'll go after it, right? And so it's identifying that desire.
Oh, what? Thank you. So, listen. Now I know we're signing off. I feel like one of those preachers now. So it's the ends of the end. But Leah just said something, guys. She just said something. You know what she said? Find that desire. Remember the guy at the pool of Bethesda, the one who couldn't move his limbs, and
Right.
Jesus came by his way, and he said, "I don't have anybody to help me." And Jesus asked one question, right? Wilt thou be made whole? What is your desire?
Yeah.
And then the man told him, and Jesus said, then take up your bed and walk. So that's
Mhm.
a promise from God. You find that desire, you acknowledge it, and God will help you. That's it. God's never going to help you against your will. But if you will to be willing, God will help you to be moving because we will move as we will. And nobody, I mean nobody, will be able to stop you from doing what you want to do. Come hell or high water. They can tell you, well, I'm not going to feed you. You're going to say, oh, well, the Lord can feed me. Well, I won't give you any water, but the Lord will give me my water. Well, I'm going to put you out there in the desert. The Lord will shield me from the sun. Well, I'm going to do this. So, in other words, don't worry about the mark of the beast. Okay? Don't worry. Don't have to be confused listening to other people. Hear the call of love. It's right on you. Okay? When you love yourself, you're not being selfish. But when you just love your feelings over everybody else, man, that's a horse of a different color. It may be the black horse. Anyhow, Leah, last words on you. Last word. I promise to zip it.
Well, I mean, I am with you wholeheartedly. That the desire, right, is the thing, right? We all go through various stages in our change. And sometimes we can be, 10 paces ahead and fall off, right? But just know that if you have a desire to be what you want to be, and that is loved, you keep working at it. You just keep working at it. It's as simple as that. It's almost like, you want to lose weight. Oh, okay, you fall off today. Well, go back to the gym again tomorrow, right? And
Mhm,
so it's the
mhm.
same thing. If you know that this is something that you are truly in need of, right? Um, then go for it. Don't let anything
Amen.
stop you, not even your own self.
Mm, mm. Powerful, powerful. Well, you heard it. I'm going to zip it right now. I'm just going to button up right here. God bless you and God keep you. Remember, to be true to yourself is to be true to God. Because when you're true to God, you're true to yourself. Remember that. If you don't believe it, read it for yourself, and you will see that God is for you. And if God is for you, who can be against you? You hear the call of love? Love is calling you. Good night. May God bless you and keep you.
I have written a book, Positively I Am With You. Your Life Matters. God inspired me to write this book. And using science, I provide, by God's grace, biblical and scientific reasoning that promises to build up the Christian who may face the challenges of agnostics, atheists, and the conflict between liberal and conservative Christianity. Positively, I Am With You, Your Life Matters provides information that will assist you in navigating through perplexing and problematic situations while preserving your own identity. And as you read this book, you will become more aware of what true love is and how you may gain and keep in control of your life and destiny. You will understand how and why it was possible for Lucifer to become the devil, having been created perfect and living in the most perfect environment. Yes, after reading this book, you may find a clearer understanding for why Adam and Eve's use of their free will resulted in being separated from God, and God promising to destroy the thing that caused Adam and Eve to choose to disobey the Creator. Oh yes, in this book, it will be revealed how the smallest particles of your being influence and in some cases are controlling your thoughts and feelings, impacting how you might be making choices and how you may avoid or break bad habits. Incredible? It is. God inspired this book. You may get this book by ordering from Barnes & Noble or Amazon. And I pray that as you read this book, that God will lead, because spiritual things are spiritually discerned. This book will be a resource for you and your family.
Fears take hold. I feel a gentle breeze. Your presence sets me free. The touch of love so soft yet strong heals my heart where I